Alright, what's going on everyone out there on YouTube? NES Ruler, and welcome to a brand new review. And this time around, we'll be checking out a film that was sent to me review by Arrow Films. And you can pick this up on 4K and Blu-ray at all your favorite online retailers. It is the Neo-Noir from 1998, titled Wild Things, directed by John McNaughton. So, as you guys know, I live in Chicago. I was raised here. I work in the film industry here in Chicago. And John McNaughton is a legend here in Chicago, of course, because of Henry and what he did for the independent film scene here in Chicago. Now, I don't work in independent films, I work in, bigger productions. So, I understand and I hear what he did and what he influenced independent filmmaking here in Chicago. So, he's always been a legend being here in the community. I see him at screenings all the time. When I was in film school, he came in and gave a lecture in one of my classes and things like that. So he still lives here, and he still is quite a important part of Chicago film history, even though he doesn't really make films anymore. So Wild Things came out in '98, and I feel like the movies that John McNaughton make are very memorable. At least Henry in this film. He made Henry, of course, it became what it is. And then he made The Bowers, which is a pretty fun movie. No one really saw it until it finally got a Blu-ray a couple of years ago. And then Wild Things, which has, one of the most memorable scenes of the 90s. And a scene that still is talked about today. And probably a scene that you probably wouldn't see being filmed in a mainstream film today. So Wild Things is an interesting film. As I was watching it, the first half of the film is pretty relevant today with the Me Too movement, and then when the film really starts picking up and you get all those twists that play out, it kind of goes away. But the first half of the film is just like, oh, this is kind of still pretty relevant with the Me Too movement. So we follow Matt Dillon's character. He's a teacher at this school in California. This community is all rich. A lot of white people, rich, white, wealthy people who have huge egos and things like that. Everybody talks smack about everybody else. And Denise Richards' character is a student of his, and she has the hots for him. And one day, she approaches Matt Dillon's character and tries to seduce him, and he ultimately turns her down. And in retaliation, she goes to the police and says that Matt Dillon's character raped her. And as the police are doing their investigation, we come across Neve Campbell's character, who's a little bit of an outcast, lives in a trailer park, very, mischievous and things like that. And she says the same thing. And they both go to court, and they try to frame Matt Dillon, and something happens. I'm not going to give it away. This film's very hard to talk about without giving away spoilers, but the second half of the film plays out like a whodunit, who can you trust, scene after scene after scene, people double-crossing each other, and what you see isn't really what's truly happening, and you don't really know who's in cahoots with who until the end of the movie. So it's a very interesting film in that sense, that it plays out in a way that it's twist after twist after twist after twist. Does it get convoluted at some points with all these, who can you trust kind of things? Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit too long for its own good. I feel like by the end of the film, it's just like, okay, this is a little bit far-fetched with all these things happening, and the other characters didn't know what was happening, but these characters knew what was happening. It's just a little bit far-fetched, in my opinion. And by the end of it, I was like, somebody would have found out something at this point. But I still think it's a very entertaining film, and like I said, it's a very classic film because of one scene in particular in this film that, stands out and is, talked about even today still in pop culture as being one of the most memorable scenes of the 90s. So Wild Things it's a very interesting film, and it's an interesting choice for Arrow to release. It has a lot going for it. It's definitely John McNaughton's biggest film. He had a huge popular cast at the time with Kevin Bacon and Denise Richards and Matt Dillon, Neve Campbell, Bill Murray's in this movie. So it's definitely his biggest film that he's ever made, and the studios gave him a shot to do what he kind of wanted to do. So I give him credit that he tried to make a bigger scale kind of film. I don't think it succeeds as well as Henry or even The Bowers, but I still feel like it's an enjoyable film. So let's talk about the transfer and the and the release. So we got the 4K on here, and you get the theatrical cut and the director's cut. The theatrical cut's 108 minutes, director's cut's 115 minutes. You get a little bit more of that memorable scene, if you know what I'm talking about, in the director's cut. It's a little bit longer, and both of them are 4K. The transfers they're good. I don't think they're like mind-blowing. Like next month's release is True Romance. I think that's one of the best 4K transfers that's ever been released on the format. I don't think it lives up to that, but I feel like it's you could see a difference between the Blu-ray. I saw the Blu-ray, I don't know, a long time ago, and I haven't seen the movie since then. And it wasn't the best transfer, so this film definitely needed a new release, and it definitely got a worthwhile release. So the transfer it's good. It's not going to blow your mind when you watch it, but I feel like it does enough to make it worthwhile over the previous Blu-ray, obviously. And you get HDR10, of course, like most of Arrow's 4Ks. If you have a TV that could is capable of showing HDR10, you'll definitely see a difference. And you got, a new commentary track with McNaughton and producer, another commentary track that McNaughton did a while ago with the cinematographer and the producer, and you just got some more making of documentaries, a new interview with John McNaughton, and a new interview with Denise Richards. So you get a lot of interviews that you usually get with these Arrow releases. And the package is, your typical Arrow limited edition that they've been doing with these 4Ks. You get the disc with reversible artwork and your poster cards, and you get a booklet with, a very thick 60-page booklet talking about the film and all that kind of stuff, and you get the fold-out poster. So all these Arrow limited edition releases are pretty similar with that sense. So I really do like these. I picked them all up, and they're quite nice. So that is my review of Wild Thing. It's an interesting late 90s film that I feel like probably couldn't get made today, but I feel like it's worth a watch. Once every 10, 15 years. So that is my review of Wild Things. I hope you guys like it. If you guys did, please give it a thumbs up. And as always, follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/NESRuler22. And I hope everybody's doing well, and I shall talk to you guys soon. See you.